Hey guys, Kalunyuda back with another video. This video is going to be a really quick upload about lastart, lastart, whatever. I just finished the second episode and I know it came out 5 days ago, but it doesn't really seem like the survival show is being talked about pretty much anywhere, and so I guess I want to kind of be the gap and talk about everything that I've noticed, everything that I've saw, and what I like, what I don't like about the show, and what I think could make the show better, but I doubt SM will improve on that. So as I started to talk about literally my thoughts on the whole show, I forgot to even explain what happens in these first two episodes. So the first episode, it starts with them basically talking about what this whole thing is and how we're making a new NCT subunit, and how this is going to like revolutionize K-pop, all that yada yada yada. And it starts with them saying that there's 2 confirmed members of NCT. And then they do a little intro for them, and then they do a little dance, and the dance was fine. They get critiqued for it, which I thought was weird because they're already guaranteed a debut, so it doesn't really matter what they say. One of them, his name's Sion, he reminds me of Jaehyun so much in terms of looks, and I thought that was really interesting, is because normally SM doesn't try to put people who look similar in the same group, because you try to really focus on one particular member and make them all have distinct looks or charms to them. So I thought that was really interesting. They kind of picked someone who looks kind of similar to Jaehyun, but not look just like him. And I kind of felt bad for these 2 guys because they literally kicked out Sungtaro, literally Sungchang being like a Korean dude and Shoro being this Japanese guy, to replace them with a Korean man and a Japanese guy. I thought that was so bizarre and weird, but SM obviously did the logistics and the analysis for it, and it made sense, so all power to them. So after they get critiqued, they then start showing the first performance. The first performance, if I'm correct, was a dance, and they got critiqued for basically having clashing concepts and other minor individual critiques. Then I think the second group was the singers, but I think I'm missing one group and I don't remember their performance, which I think is a demonstration of where I think they stand in terms of quality. And then after that, we had a rapping singing duo. They did a good job. I feel like I'm missing one group. Oh, the group that danced before the rapping singing duo. The group that danced, and then a group that did NCT Dreams Chewing Gum. I think I covered all the groups, but it doesn't really matter. There was a bunch of performances, and the point of the performance was that it was 2v2, so it would be 2 potential members against another 2, and they all did different things, so it didn't have to be like an evaluation on just singing or dancing or rapping. It was like kind of playing to your strengths, I guess. And then what they did is they ranked the trainees 1 through 10, and after doing some analysis on the performances, obviously, and the members who finished within the top 4 would get to do the iconic SM trainee photo shoots, and they showed some of the old ones, and you can see some crazy cuts from some of the groups we've seen. Like, bro, if you see the haircut they gave Chanyeol and Johnny in that flick, it was crazy. Like, I would have sued somebody. So I thought that was actually a very interesting reward, I guess. And what happened is 4 members got it, and I guess the next episode will be presenting the photo shoot, and then I guess some level of dance evaluation. The only reason I say that is because Taemin is one of the guest judges, and I can't really imagine not having Taemin do a dance evaluation, or at least some level of like a performance evaluation. So I'm curious how that will come out. But basically, what they did is they ranked each person individually, so it wasn't like your group did the best, you get to go. It's like one person did the best, and they were allowed to do the trainee photos. So I just wanted to make sure you understood what happened in the episode before I started talking about my thoughts throughout the episode. Okay, first of all, the contestants. I will say that a lot of them are quite forgettable. So we've seen all of them perform. There's 10 of them, I want to say, or 11. And I would say that a bunch of them are very forgettable. And I would say that the performances that truthfully stood out to me were the final two. So it was the two trainees who did chewing gum. I'm kind of blanking on their names right now, but they did a great job. I will not be supporting them just because they are both under 18, and I literally cannot imagine them being an NCT, in all honesty, so I cannot stand them personally, but I do think that they're both really talented and they did a really good job. The other performance I really liked was Riku and Rio. I think they did a really good job. I mean, Rio has literally only been a trainee for 2 weeks, and I think he did a lot better than a lot of the other trainees, surprisingly. And then Riku, I mean, he was the only one that I said he will definitely be debuting. I cannot imagine him not debuting. He kind of gives very YG vibes in a lot of ways. His tone, his approach. When I first heard him open his mouth, I said, why does he rap like GD and Sunghoon from Winner? So I think that's really interesting. Now, I do find that he will probably debut, but other than that, I would say that most of the people didn't stand out. I think Anderson will probably debut, not because of really his talent, not saying he's untalented, but I don't think he it stands out, probably because of his English ability, and he seems to have a pretty dynamic personality that I think could work in terms of marketing. I will say, other than that, most of the performances were forgettable. Anderson, I forgot who he danced with. I think it was Ruda. They did alright. Then it was the singing. Yeah, that was a bit of a disaster, I'm not gonna lie. It was just awkward. But then one of them ended up doing pretty well, so I guess it all worked out in the end for him. And next episode is going to be a photo shoot, and I think the guest judges are Taemin from SHINee and Donghae from Super Junior. I think that is what it is. What I will say is almost all of them, except say 2 or 3 of them, remind me of other SM idols, and I think that's very interesting. In general, as a concept, is I'm oh, they remind me of this one and this one and that one, which I think is kind of interesting. What I don't really like about this show, I guess, is to get into the negatives, is one, it's not really a survival show in the way that I'm accustomed to it, at least. I think about the era of survival shows because I feel like SM's also very behind on survival shows. Survival shows are very irrelevant, and a lot of people think that they're rigged, but I guess SM is eliminating that whole rigging element by simply not giving fans the opportunity to vote. I think this would have been much more interesting, and you would have seen more engagement from fans if Citizens had control over who debuts and who doesn't, but I think this is more just getting an inside look on the way that SM chooses who does and doesn't debut, which I guess is cool, but I don't really find that to be the most interesting bit of TV for anybody. What I will say that I like about it, I guess, is that it is all in good fun, I guess, and it is cool to see SM artists be judges and to think that they notice that I guess the average person wouldn't notice. I think that is really interesting, and to see that their advice, I think, and their approaches to judging, I think Onhyuk is very cold. I think he said some things that are a bit callous. He could have gone about saying them in a nicer way. I think Boa is very honest. I think her reviews are things where it's okay, that's harsh, but it's fair, and it's stuff that if it wasn't pointed out, I wouldn't have noticed, but since she pointed it out, I was oh yeah, I see that. And I think he is just very nice. I think even if he didn't like the performance or he felt like there was a lot of issues with it, he always made sure that he did find the good within the performance, and I thought that was really cool. So I thought that was a real positive. I think that when it comes to the popularity of lastart, this is what I really want to talk about. I literally hear nobody talk about this show. I think it is so fascinating. I checked Twitter. I checked everywhere. At first I was okay, let me check Twitter. It was dead on Twitter. So quiet, literally nobody was talking about it. So then I was okay, let me check TikTok, it's more young, I saw a bit more relevance there, but the highest liked video is of the trainees doing the chewing gum, and half the comments are oh my god, NCT Dream, impact, nothing to do with both the trainees. So I thought that was also very interesting, is that it seems nobody really gives a shit about this show, and I think part of it is the lack of fan engagement, but on top of that, it's because because survival shows are outdated and antiquated. Nobody gives a shit about a survival show anymore. SM should have done this literally 5 years ago. Like, not even 5 years ago, like at this point, like 8 years ago. I feel like I saw survival shows really start to snap and pop off like 2016 to 2018. And now as I'm doing it now, it's like, who cares? What's the last survival show to come out? I mean, I'm sure it was one of the Producer 101 spinoffs, but like, who's really keeping, oh, actually, no, it was in hyphens. It was definitely in hyphens. But who else has really been keeping up with the survival show? In all honesty, no one cares about them anymore. And so I feel like SM's also really missing the mark that, like, they did this way too late. And then on top of not, and then the fact that they aren't letting fans like vote for who they want in their group is making it even less relevant to any fans' minds. On top of that, it's because NCT debuted literally 7 years ago, so like, how much passion do you really have behind it? I think it's really interesting too, because it's not like there's no interest in new boy groups. I mean, look at Rise right now. Like, everybody's talking about Rise. Your mom's talking about Rise. The world's talking about Rise. Everyone's like, oh my god, like, have you seen Siren? Have you seen Siren? So it's crazy that this is happening, and if I was with the trainees for this new NCT group, I'd be pissed, because you see all this hype coming to fucking Rise, and none of it is coming to the survival show you're in, and I think that's so bizarre, but it's 100% SM's fault for literally being stupid. Like, SM is such a stupid company for this. Like, I can't even fathom it, and I feel so bad for all the trainees who are working their ass off to debut in a group that's 7 years old. Like, I can't, like, the more I think about LA Start, the more I'm just like, why did SM do this? And the more I get annoyed, but I think I'm still gonna watch the show, and I'm still gonna talk about what's going on, because I think it's so funny that literally nobody's watching the show. So I feel like maybe if I like speak on it, maybe I'll hear other people's opinions and thoughts, but literally all I could find was like maybe 3 people talking about it on Tumblr. Just like literally nobody talking about it on Twitter, and like people doing some TikToks, but they were not really doing crazy numbers for K-pop stans. So I just like, SM really stuck up the joint with this one. Anyway, this was a very quick video. I'm literally just churning this one out, and hopefully I have a bit more of a well thought out and produced video in the future, but I really wanted to just talk about LA Start, and I think I want to do this for every single episode that comes out, so I wanted to get this done before the 3rd episode comes out, which is in like 2 days, I think. So hopefully you'll see me talking about the next episode next week and give you my thoughts again. I want to say thank you, and if you want to watch my recent uploads, my past 2 uploads is SM failed NCT again, and JYP is not a good company again. Thank you so much.